This message has no affiliation with the Department of War. Good evening, everyone. Stick with us today as we break down the MAHA movement and I answer one of the questions that you all asked during this week. This is the Martin Memo. The Martin Memo. Well, before we begin, it's been another great week here at the Martin Memo. I do apologize for my absence. I was dealing with a little bit of a common cold, and I was also taking some time and visiting with family during the holidays. But I am back. I am ready to work, so let's get into it. Today we're diving into something that's hitting every American home, and that is the war on our health through the food we eat. We're talking about the Make America Healthy Again movement, also known as MAHA, and the terrible, sinister stuff lurking in our groceries. From a conservative viewpoint, this isn't just about diet tips. It's about reclaiming our God-given freedoms from big ag and big pharma and the nanny state that's making us sick and dependent. I've been ranting about this issue for years. Remember when we conservatives fought for school choice and against government mandates? Well, MAHA is the health version of that, pushing back against the elites who profit off of our illnesses. But we're also going to talk about the controversial side, like RFK Jr.'s bold stance that have made everyone a little bit weary. So stick around because this episode might just save your life, or at the very least your waistline. Let's roll. First off, what the heck is MAHA? Make America Healthy Again. It is the brainchild of RFK Jr., who is now heading up Health and Human Services under President Trump. It's a full-on assault on the chronic disease epidemic that's crippling our country. We're talking about reforming food systems, cracking down on junk science, and putting kids first. In their big report last year, they laid out over 100 ideas to tackle childhood illnesses, things like banning harmful additives and promoting real farm-fresh food. As a conservative, I love this because it's about getting government out of the way while holding industries accountable. No more subsidies for mega corporations pumping out processed slop. Let's support family farms and personal choice. RFK Jr. is the perfect guy for this. Even if he's got that Kennedy name that makes some of us twitch, he's crossed the aisle to team up with Trump, calling out the escalating health crisis in America. Yes, it goes without saying that he is controversial. He's slammed vaccines for years, claiming they cause autism and other issues based on what he calls suppressed studies. Back in the day, he wrote articles on vaccines that cause neurological problems in kids. The establishment hates him for it. They call it misinformation. But from my point of view, he is a whistleblower exposing Big Pharma's grip on our health. Sure, he's backtracked a bit in his Senate hearings, saying he's not anti-vax necessarily, but pro-safety. But still, he's demanded retractions of studies that downplay vaccine risks. Controversial? Absolutely. But in a world where the CDC pushes mandates without debate, we need people like RFK shaking things up, and that is exactly what he is doing. And get this, under MAHA, they've already unveiled strategies to investigate root causes of our health mess, focusing on kids. It's about making America strong again. Healthy families mean a healthy nation, ready to work, innovate, and defend our values. Liberals mock it as conspiracy stuff, but I say it is common sense conservatism. Now let's dive into the meat and potatoes. Literally. The terrible things in our food are a national disgrace, and it is no accident. Big Ag and their lobbyists have turned our supermarkets into chemical warfare zones. Take ultra-processed foods. These are the Frankenstein creations loaded with sugars, fats, and additives that make you crave more. A recent CDC report shows Americans are scarfing down way too much of this junk, and it is killing us. This is outrageous. We conservatives believe in free markets, but not when they're rigged to addict our kids and bankrupt our healthcare. Let's start with additives. Over 2,500 chemicals are dumped into our food on purpose to make it last longer, to make it look prettier, or even to make it taste better. By 2019, 60% of packaged foods Americans buy had 3 or more of these tech additives within it. Things like potassium bromate in baked goods, banned in Europe because it has potential cancer risks associated with it, or propylparaben in tortillas, which messes with hormones. And don't even get me started on BHA in potato chips. It is a preservative that animal studies link to cancer. The FDA lets companies self-declare this stuff safe with no real oversight. That's not conservatism at all. That is crony capitalism at its worst. And let's talk about all these artificial food dyes. Red 40, yellow 5, blue 1. These vibrant villains are turning our kids' snacks into behavioral time bombs. These synthetic colors aren't just unnecessary, they're downright harmful, with studies linking them to hyperactivity and worsening ADHD symptoms in children. A major review of clinical trials found that over half showed a connection between artificial dyes and negative behavioral responses. Another report from California highlights how they cause neurobehavioral problems in some kids, backed by a meta-analysis of 20 studies showing increased ADHD-like behaviors, especially noted by parents. As conservatives, this stuff should bother you. Big food corporations are prioritizing profits over our children's futures, pumping this junk into cereals and candies while our kids pay the price with focus issues and behavioral chaos. MAHA under RFK is right to target these toxins. We need to ban them from schools and protect family values by keeping our youth sharp and healthy. Here's another kicker that boils my blood. Most big food companies are two-faced hypocrites whipping up 2 different recipes for the same product. One loaded with extra crap for us here in America, and a cleaner, safer version shipped off to Europe and other parts of the world. Why is that? Because Europe actually enforces strict rules with a precautionary principle. If an additive might be risky, they ban it outright or slap warnings all over the product. They only allow about 300 additives in total. Meanwhile, in the good old USA, we've got over 10,000 chemicals and additives greenlit by the FDA's lax systems, where companies can self-certify stuff as safe. Even European brands tweak their formulas for the U.S. market to cram in more preservatives and junk because they can get away with it here. Take iconic products like peanut butter or pasta sauce. The U.S. versions often have added sugars, hydrogen oils, and banned dyes that you'd never see in the UK or EU counterparts. Corporations whine that reformulating would be too expensive, but they do it just fine for Europe. From a conservative standpoint, this is betrayal in the highest degree. Our so-called free market is rigged by lobbyists and weak regulations, selling out American families to pad profits while foreigners get the wholesome products. MAHA needs to level the playing field and demand better for us, not treat us like second-class citizens in our own country. Then there's GMOs and pesticides. Our crops are engineered and sprayed with glyphosate, also known as Roundup, which seeps into everything from corn to soy. Studies show residues in 80% of Americans' urine. It is safe to say that it is poisoning our gut health and contributing to autoimmune diseases. RFK has been railing against this for decades as an environmental lawyer, calling out Monsanto's monopoly. Is this controversial? Sure, but he is absolutely right. Big corporations shouldn't play God with our food supply. Seed oils are another villain. Canola, soybean, sunflower, these inflammatory oils are in everything, fried or processed. They're cheap thanks to government subsidies, but they spike omega-6 fats, leading to heart issues. Personally, I switched my diet to butter and olive oil years ago, and let me tell you, I feel so much better. Traditional conservative cooking is real fats from real farms, and it is on the way back. Now let's talk about another one that's everyone's favorites, and that is artificial sweeteners. I'm talking about aspartame, sucralose, even stevia. They're in these diet drinks, but they are linked to weight gain and gut disruption. It is all a scam to keep us hooked while big food laughs to the bank. From a conservative lens, this is about family sovereignty. The government shouldn't subsidize this trash. Let the market reward wholesome, American-grown food. MAHA's pushing for that, banning all that junk in our schools and labeling GMOs how they should be. RFK Reports calls it a call to action against declining health in kids, but critics say it's short on details. I say give it time. Rome wasn't built in a night, but our obesity epidemic in America was. Let's look at the health stats. They are absolutely horrifying. Over a third of U.S. adults are obese, up from decades ago, thanks to excess sugar and junk from the 70s and 80s hitting us now. And what about diabetes? 73% of type 2 cases in the U.S. are tied to poor diet. Things like ultra-processed food and high energy density crap. Up to half of new diabetes diagnoses link straight to obesity. We're talking 1,600 Americans dying daily from diet-related chronic illnesses like heart disease and cancer. As conservatives, we value hard work and self-reliance. But how can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps when your body's wrecked by corporate greed? 23% of obese adults have diabetes, and it's hitting our kids the hardest. Obesity rates in youth are skyrocketing. MAHA's report nails this. RFK is pushing investigations into these root causes, but his vaccine skepticism ties in. He claims environmental toxins, including in foods and shots, are the real culprits behind autism spikes. Many label it as dangerous, but honestly, I see a guy questioning the narrative that's kept us sick for so long. To wrap this up, MAHA isn't perfect. RFK has baggage, as we all know, like his raw milk advocacy or fluoride fights that some call fringe. He's even fueled distrust in his own agencies by promoting vaccine doubts. But in year one, MAHA's building momentum, reforming human health services to prioritize real health over profits. As conservatives, we should back this. Less regulation on healthy choices, more accountability for the poison pushers. Start by shopping local, ditch the processed junk, and support family farms. Vote for leaders who fight against big agriculture and big pharma, and pray for our nation to heal. With that all being said, it is time to move on to my favorite segment of the show, and that is the cold monologue. For those of you who do not know what the cold monologue is, you ask us questions throughout the week. My editor-in-chief writes the questions down on pieces of paper. She puts it in this hat, and then I read it. You're getting my pure, authentic response. So with that being said, let's dive into the first question. Guys, you have stated many times that you do not like Nick Fuentes. Why? I don't like Nick Fuentes because he is very divisive, and that is not what the Republican Party needs now. He's growing a lot of attention, taking in a lot of that Charlie Kirk support, but I don't agree with most of his ideology. This is why I say that. He's got good ideas, do not get me wrong, and he's got a lot of good morals, don't get me wrong, but he goes about it the wrong way. I've listened into many of his videos, and they are frankly disgusting. And here's another thing. For someone who claims that they are America first, it does not seem like it. This whole hate against Israel makes no sense. Israel is a top ally. And no, I'm not getting paid by them to say that. I don't get where the hate comes from when Israel has been a top ally and when they have helped the U.S. a lot. On top of that, Nick Fuentes, the big issue again in the 2025 election that we just had seen about a month ago now was the gender gap. If someone like the likes of Nick Fuentes continues to get that conservative momentum and potentially runs for office, that is only going to lead the Republican Party the opposite direction. People want to talk about how there is a big divide in the left side of the party and the Democrats. There's one forming in the Republican side too. It may not be as obvious as the Democrat side, but in the Republican side there is a divide happening, and it is happening quickly. That is another big critique that I have of him. He's very divisive. He is not the answer that we need moving forward. I'm going to answer one more because that was a good one. What is your favorite Bible verse? I heard this one when I was in air assault school, at Fort Campbell. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I love that one. I was attending air assault school, and I had met with the chaplain, and we had a good conversation, and he left me with that verse. No other verses have really been able to stick with me as much as that one has. So I love that one. I plan on eventually getting a tattoo of that, but that is one of my favorite verses, and I love to say that all the time, and it just makes my day better. So that would probably be my favorite verse. Well, folks, that's all we have in store for today. Join us on Monday as we have another live stream. Those have been super fun, by the way. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. I answer all of the questions, so please keep those questions coming. Share your thoughts on X. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Now, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is the Martin Memo. The Martin Memo.